Welcome back to the locker room for another segment of college basketball. I'm Noah Muller, joined here by Jake Minardi and Myles Berkowitz. We have a few matchups that went down this last week to talk about, as well as getting into some tournament contenders or teams that could potentially be early exits. So without further ado, let's get into it.
The level is just too advanced, the bezel is Tiffany stamp, don't grip on my hand. I know that I came with the slide from left to right, but now I don't wanna dance. I got too much on the line, too much on my mind, too much ain't enough of my plans. Nike don't pay me to tell you just do it, they pay me to show you I do it again. I can't be pale in my casket, make sure I die with a tan, it's part of the brand. I know that I came with a slide from left to right, but now I don't wanna dance. Can I depend on a man? I slide some bread in the jam, that's just who I am. Custom just waving at us from the window, they don't even come on the plane when we land. Anyone else would retire, but I'm not content.
So first game I want to talk about here is the Iowa State Cyclones taking down the Houston Cougars 70-67. And honestly, I think Iowa, they don't really have a star player. They're a very gritty team, though. They can compete with anybody. And, I mean, it really showed this game at home, able to take down the second best team in the nation with the star power of Kingston Fleming, Chris Sinak, other players like that. I thought they did a great job containing Houston's offense while also generating more offense of their own. And I thought it was a very good win for Iowa State.
Yeah, really good win for Iowa State. That makes them 23-3. And when you look at deep contenders, I don't know if Iowa State has what it takes to make it to Final Four, national championship like that, but they can certainly make a deep run. Like you said, they don't have a star player, but they are gritty. They're scrappy and they defend. All around, I think they're very balanced and they're able to spread the floor well. So I actually really like Iowa State as like one of the Big 12 teams that are the best.
Yeah, Iowa State didn't have a score more than 13 points. And in today's landscape, that's extremely rare to come out with a win, let alone beat the second-ranked team in the country. And, they contained Kingston Fleming's 22 points. That's still pretty good, but the guys around him didn't really contribute much, and it was a really close game. And looking at Iowa State, I wouldn't want to play them at home. Obviously, in the tournament, it's neutral sites, but at home for the regular season, Iowa State's a really tough team to beat.
Yeah. But moving on to a team that did have a star player in their game, Texas Tech taking down Arizona. JT Toppin with a 31-point double-double on, at that point, the best team in the nation. Koa Pete for Arizona only played 11 minutes in this game. But Texas Tech more impressively able to get the job done on the road. I thought they really rallied around Toppin's performance, and I thought they were able to contain Braden Burries pretty well. He only had 16. And, I mean, overall, this Arizona team's kind of on a downtrend ever since the Kansas loss.
Exactly. I mean, Toppin is a beast. And like you said, I think Arizona is sort of starting to fall off a little. They have a really tough stretch of games here, like I said last week. Kansas, Texas Tech, and, they lost both of those games. So these next few games are going to be really important for them to win because, that's where we're going to learn, are they legit and are they really going to be able to contend in March. But great win for Texas Tech. We're going to see the same thing with them in the future.
Yeah, with Texas Tech, it seems like they were really just engaged on defense the whole night. Even going into overtime, that was a really tough game for them to win, obviously. But with Arizona, the season ebbs and flows. It's a long season, especially in college. But coming up, they have BYU tonight. They have Houston on the 21st, and then they have Iowa State March 2nd. So those three games, I'm looking ahead, and I'm like, what can you do in those games? If you go 3-0, then this minor two-game losing skid doesn't look like much. But if they lose most of those games, then that's a cause for concern for Arizona.
Yeah, this is 100% be the wrong time for Arizona to get cold as we're approaching March Madness, and in general, Arizona was undefeated before the Kansas game, and it would go to show you that a team can be as hot as they want pretty much all season, but as soon as they get to the hard part of the schedule, if they flop, then that'll be it for them.
Yeah, it matters with all levels of sports. If a team gets hot before March or heading into March, that's all they need. So
yeah. All right, the last game I do want to pinpoint from this week here was Michigan taking down Purdue last night, 91-80. And, I mean, this guy's one of my favorite players in college basketball. Jaclin Lendenborg got 13-7, and, I mean, he's just been a beast all season for Michigan. This team is really great, as well as Elliot Cadeau putting up 13 points. this Michigan team, they get it done. I mean, there's no other way to say it. This team gets it done. They are a legit contender. They are probably the favorite going into March Madness as of right now. And they have a lot of star power at every position.
Yeah, they do. I mean, they're extremely well balanced and complete. I think they're the most complete team in college basketball. What I'm really excited for is for when they play Duke this weekend. We see Arizona, Houston too. That's going to be a huge game to see. But yeah, overall, Michigan is just really good. What I want to talk about is Elliot Cadeau. He's one of my favorite players, and I'm really just happy to see him doing really good this year. Saw him. I'm sure you saw him struggling in his freshman year, even last year, but just steady improvements each year. No rush to get to the league or anything. Struggled with his three-point percentage, got it up last year, and got it up again this year. And he's back to being that confident shooter, that he always was, that everyone knew he was in his high school years. And he's been looking to be a great facilitator all year, and now he's impacting the scoring sheet too. So, it's a scary sight to see for teams, and Michigan is, in my opinion, definitely the scariest team in college basketball right now.
Yeah, as you guys said, Michigan looks like the most complete team in college basketball right now, but they finally overtook Arizona, getting that number one spot in the country, and going into March, they look like the best team. But with Purdue, I mean, Braden Smith, it seems like he's been in college forever. I've been following him for a while. Short, tiny guy. He's 6 foot, barely, gets up, but he always seems to perform. And with Purdue, they seem like one of the most experienced team in going into March, but I just don't know if they can get it done at this point.
Yeah, I mean, Purdue has always kind of been up there as one of those top college teams, but kind of on a fall off right now. They just lost their 4th game. And I mean, it was probably closer than some people expected, probably a little bit further than some people expected, but I don't know if Purdue can contend in March, honestly, seeing as they were the preseason number 1 consensus. And then, I mean, they've kind of just flopped all year pretty much against, the tough matchups they've had.
Yeah, I mean, I really didn't agree with that preseason, top 1 ranking. I mean, a lot of them are really just random guesses out there because you don't really know what teams are going to look like. But, yeah, Purdue, I don't really think they have what it takes to contend all the way in March. I think they'll win a few rounds, but I don't see them making further than, Elite 8, even Sweet 16. I think that's where they'll end this year.
Yeah, I think that's probably around the right range. But the last thing I do want to get into here is, since we're approaching the tournament, there are a few teams that are kind of on the fringe of being contenders, or some people think they could be early exits. So I want to start off there with Kansas. I think Kansas is a very good team, but I do think Darren Peterson's kind of holding them back, especially when he is on the floor more so, because you look at the lineup statistically, who gets the most done. And the lineup with Darren Peterson isn't great, honestly. I feel like he holds them back because he's not always playing. I mean, he's there kind of half the time on the court. So I do think Kansas will win, say, the first 2 rounds, but I think they're going to be a Sweet 16 exit this year.
Yeah, my opinion on Darren Peterson has changed multiple times this year. At one point I saw him as a complete game changer, which I still do think he is. I mean, he's the best player by far in college basketball. But it's like you said, it's his ability to be consistent and stay on the floor, and it just hasn't been there all year. And in reality, that's exactly like you said. That's what's holding Kansas back, because they don't have true experience with him being on the floor consistently. Because even when he's in, I mean, he's on a minute restriction. Sure, he's balling out, going crazy in the minutes he gets, but, there's no real look at what they see. So until Darren Peterson is consistently, in the lineup and – Kansas looks consistent with him in there, I don't have much faith in them being able to truly contend for a national championship. I think if you asked me a week or 2 ago, I would say they do, because they were getting hot at the absolute right time. I mean, Darren Peterson was starting to come back, do good. They were beating teams without him. They beat Arizona. They were on a run. They were starting to heat up again. But, with his inconsistency right now, I don't have that much faith in them.
Yeah, with Peterson, he's 19. He's a freshman. With going into this March tournament, we'll see how the experience plays out with him. Obviously, guys like Cooper Flagg last year, he didn't really feel fazed by, the pressure of it all. But with Peterson, he's a shooter, and sometimes can be an inconsistent shooter at that. So we'll see if his jump shot falls. But I want to talk about Illinois. I just think Keaton Wagler might be one of the most underrated players in college. He's just a bucket. Like, every time I watch this guy, he's just putting up consistent points. And in March, a lot of times the offense stalls out for teams, and I just don't see that happening with Illinois and Keaton Wagler.
Yeah, I mean, with Illinois, they always have 5 guys who can shoot the ball on the court at all times, whether it's Kylan Boswell, Keaton Wagler, the Ivasic brothers, or Stojakovic. This team is very complete, and they're a very underrated dark horse team going into the tournament, especially because they're 10-seeded right now, rather than they were in the top 5 last week. But yeah, Keaton Wagler is probably one of the best players in college basketball, to be honest with you, averaging 18.5 a game. I mean, he's really brought this Illinois team up from what they thought that they would end up being. He is what I think is just like a much more polished Yaku Chonas from last year that Illinois had, the tall guard frame kind of build. But he's a very exciting player. It's a very exciting team. Everyone's jump shot seems to be falling at the right time now, and I think they could make a deep run.
Yeah, Keaton Wagler is, without a doubt, one of the best players in college basketball. And I agree. I think they're a team that's under the radar right now, very overlooked. But I think they're going to surprise a lot of people in March and make a deep run.
Yeah. All right, what about Nebraska? I mean, Nebraska is a good team. They have 4 losses only, but a lot of the tough games they haven't won. I think their toughest game that they've won is against Michigan State much earlier in the year, and they've been kind of on a downward trend since then, since the schedule's gotten harder. I think they can contend with the good teams. I don't think they can beat the good teams. I think they will probably exit in the round of 32.
Yeah, they can compete with good teams. You know, their losses, they weren't bad losses, right? I mean, they did just lose to Iowa yesterday. That was not a good loss, but it is a rivalry. But, you know, you look at their losses. They lost to Purdue, Illinois, all close games. And like you said, you know, they're able to contend with big teams. They don't have what it takes to, you know, make it all the way. I wouldn't say they're that experienced. Nebraska in the tournament. It's obviously a great year for them, right? We don't really see Nebraska doing that well every year in college basketball, but I don't think they have what it takes to contend.
Yeah, I agree with both of you guys. Obviously, as Jake just said, losing to unranked Iowa yesterday, that can't happen, especially for the 9th-ranked team in the country. And we just talked about Illinois, who's number 10, and we feel infinitely more confident in Illinois going into the tournament than we do Nebraska.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Nebraska is just a team that's very up and down trend this year. And they're still highly ranked because of the record, because they had a lot of easy matchups at the start of the year. But as the schedule's gotten harder, they've seemed to cool down more and more. But the last team I want to go over here, this might be a stretch considering they're still number 4 ranked, but Arizona on a 2-game losing streak against 2 ranked teams they'll probably see in the tournament at some point. I think it's a little bit concerning. I definitely think they have to get right against BYU, but I think this team is also very talented. I think Koa Pete and Braden Burries is the best freshman duo in the country. And I think this team is going to make a Final Four run or even go deeper into the tournament. I still think it's a great team. I think Braden Burries is a top 3-point guard or guard in general in college basketball. And I think Koa Pete, as long as he plays more minutes, is going to be very effective for them.
Yeah, I mean, this team is loaded with talent. At one point in the season, we saw them. I think we could all agree that they looked unstoppable, and now they look very beatable. They're on a little bit of a downtrend, but I wouldn't overreact. You know, this is a huge stretch of games for them right here, and you know, I think if they start to win again, they get hot at the right time. It's exactly what they need, and I have plenty of faith in them being able to, you know, go into the tournament and make a deep run, even national championship run. I mean, they've looked great all year, and they have all the talent they need to make that run. So.
Yeah, as we said earlier, they play BYU tonight. They beat BYU by 3 a couple weeks ago, and tonight has to be their get-right game. They come off of 2 losses, being the number 1 team in the country, and now playing BYU, they have to respond, and they have to, you know, get right tonight, or else we can have some legitimate concerns about this team.
Yeah, but I think tonight, the team's going to come out really aggravated at the last 2 games, and I think it might be a little bit ugly for BYU. That'll be it for college basketball this week. Come back in a second as we'll be on the NBA.
Welcome back to the locker room. I'm joined by Jake, Nick, and Noah, and now we're going to be talking about some big NBA trades that happened. As we know, the trade deadline occurred last week, and some trades that happened were Ivica Zubac being traded to the Pacers for Ben Mathurin and 2 first-round picks. Anthony Davis traded to the Wizards for 2 first-round picks. James Harden traded to the Cavs in basically a straight-up swap for Darius Garland. and Jaren Jackson traded to Utah for 3 first-round picks. What do we think about these big trades?
I mean, let's start with the Zubac trade, right? I don't think I like that for the Pacers, right? I mean, they don't look good, and they're trading for a big that you would be looking for if you're a contender right now. You know, if you had Halliburton, if you're looking to contend, but they really don't have anything. And they just traded 2 first-round picks. They just traded future picks for Zubac. So I don't know if I like that trade for them.
Yeah, it's definitely a move for the future. I was surprised, too, when I saw it. But 3 first-round picks, especially when you're not a contending team right now, seems like a little bit much to give up for a guy who, let's be honest, isn't really that incredible of a big man. Like, he's top 5.
He's a great big, but like it's not like he's going to be an absolute game changer.
Yeah, I don't know about the fit with him and Siakam in the shooting with all that. Obviously, Halliburton's going to find him, but I just don't know about how far this can take them going into the future.
I mean, you also have to look at this from a bigger standpoint. I mean, it's already February. The Pacers are 15-40. I don't really think they have a reason to go out and trade for a player at this late in the season. I mean, the season was already a wash without Halliburton, and I thought they should have just waited till the end of the season and free agency to make some moves.
Yeah, I love this trade for the Clippers, honestly, getting Ben Mathurin and 2 first-round picks from a team that's struggling right now. I mean, the Clippers' goal this whole trade deadline was to just get a haul for your good players, everyone besides Kawhi, because obviously they don't want to let Kawhi go. But I thought it was a great haul for the Clippers. I thought Zubac is good for the Pacers next year rather than this year. I think that's what they're aiming for with that trade. But they're definitely going to have to figure out the spacing issues with Zubac, Siakam, and then Nesmith too. But overall, I think it's a good trade for both teams. I think both teams gain something out of this.
Yeah, I'll take back what I said about the Pacers. I mean, obviously it doesn't benefit them in any means this year. But I think when Halliburton gets back, he's going to work great with Halliburton. I think for the Clippers, I completely agree with you, Noah. They've been able to get a great haul of picks, players, and I think they're sort of more looking to build for the future now, and they're doing it pretty well. So,
yeah, now let's move on to another Clippers trade. As James Harden being traded just for a straight-up swap in Darius Garland, I don't like this move at all for Cleveland. We've seen, 10 years now of James Harden in the playoffs just crumble, and I don't know why Cleveland would expect anything less from this guy. It seems like every year they get into a Game 7 and he goes 3 for 20, and we're all blaming the coach. But we never blame James Harden for some reason. And I just think Cleveland is, not really recognizing this, and I don't really know why.
I mean, obviously for Cleveland, it's win now, because why else would you trade for Harden at this point? Harden has played really good. It seems like every single time he reaches a new team, he starts just going crazy for his first few games. But yeah, I think it's really just going to be interesting to see how they perform in the playoffs. Because if he doesn't perform once again, if the Cavs don't compete, I mean, it's just going to be the same old story about Harden and not being able to do anything in the playoffs. So I'm honestly not sure about how I feel about the trade. They've looked great since they got him for those few games, and they look good. They had some energy. But it's really just going to have to be a thing that we look forward to in the future.
Yeah, I mean, with this trade for Cleveland, obviously, like you said, it's win now. Harden is just trying to get the ring that he probably should have gotten in Houston years and years ago. And the big men, I mean, Jared Allen right now looks like if he played like this all season with Harden, he would be all NBA first team. I mean, he's elevated Jared Allen to such a big level, and I mean, with Cleveland, they can win now with this team. It just depends. Does Harden want to be selfish, or does he want to, get a ring? Because if he's going to play selfish in the playoffs, then with a team of guys like Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley, that's just not going to work. But if he decides to kind of, go with the spacing of which this team plays with and do his part, then this team can win a ring. This is a good trade for them. And Garland is going to finally in LA get an offense that he can command rather than they bring in a guy like Donovan Mitchell and he takes it over. And I do love that for Garland. And this wasn't an awful deal for the Clippers. It was kind of just move on from Harden, and you got a good player for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're completely right, Jake. I mean, every time Harden goes to a new team, he just starts playing well. But I honestly think that James Harden just needed to leave Los Angeles. I mean, the Clippers were done with him. He was done with the Clippers. So I think it was a good trade to send James Harden to Cleveland, where he has a good roster around him, and I think the Cavs are definitely championship contenders.
Yeah, now moving on to probably the most surprising trade of the deadline is Jaren Jackson Jr. being traded to Utah, of all teams, for 3 first-round picks. Now, Memphis, we thought they were going to trade Ja, but they ended up trading Jackson instead. And I like it for Memphis. I think they got a good return. I think getting a guy who can shoot at his size and play his defense is a premium in today's NBA, at least on Utah's side. But I like the deal for both sides, to be quite honest, because Memphis didn't really have any business in contending this year, and Utah's building for the future at this point.
Yeah, I think overall it's a good deal. Utah, like you said, added another piece that they can look forward to in the future. I think it's just, you look at this with Memphis, because obviously they're building for the future. I think it's just disappointing. A few years ago they had that team that, was catching the internet by storm. They had Ja. They had Dylan Brooks, who I don't like. They had Jackson. They had a lot of good players, and they were contenders. But that was supposed to be the team that competed for the championship, and it just never worked out. They've slowly regressed each year, and I mean now we see how they look now, and it's kind of, I would say, disappointing for them because they sort of were in a rebuild and they got themselves to that point. And now I think they sort of have to accept that they need to build to the future again. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Ja in the future. I think that's for sure. But I think they're definitely planning for the future now.
I don't know what the Jazz are doing. I mean, you trade for him, and he's a great player. You could put him in the lineup, but they're sitting him the rest of the year. They put him on the injury reserve to tank. I mean, I don't really see the point in this deal, because you give away 3 first-round picks of your future, as well as Walter Clayton, who was another first-round pick of your future, who's going to probably pan out pretty well. And then you trade a couple other young depth pieces. It's not an awful deal. It's not the end of the world for Utah, but I don't like it if you're just going to sit him all year this year. I mean, at least get him some court time, get him adjusted with the lineup, because a lot of the guys you have in the lineup right now are going to be guys who stay for a while, like Sensabaugh and other guys like that. But overall, I don't like the deal. It's not because of the player, it's because of the fit.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the deal either. I mean, huge heartbreak for Memphis Grizzlies, but with Utah, especially when you're sitting your players just to tank every game, I mean, it's not a good look as a basketball team overall. But, I mean, the Jackson trade, I was kind of confused with Memphis of why he went and not Ja. I mean, I think they should have gotten rid of Ja over Jackson.
Yeah, I think Utah was a bit impatient. Obviously, they have so much picks from all the trades that they've made to trade away their star guys. And getting Jaren Jackson Jr., who's not really a huge needle mover on a non-contending team, and as we all said, they're sitting him the rest of the year, so it's not like they're trying to win now. But it doesn't really look like they're going to win later with Jaren Jackson as their number one guy. So now moving on, we have actually a trade that didn't happen is Giannis Antetokounmpo. We all thought he was going to be traded. Shams tweeted he was unhappy in his situation, but ultimately nothing came of it. And what do we think about that?
Honestly, I don't know. I'm just confused. I think we sort of got baited again with it. This happened a few times. But, yeah, I'm honestly just confused with it. I don't know what's going to happen with Giannis in his future. But I don't really see, a championship contending future with him in the Bucks. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm a bit confused by it, all of it.
Yeah, I mean, Milwaukee obviously probably had one of the highest asking prices in NBA history for a player, considering just the player that Giannis is and has become over his years in Milwaukee. And if no team met that deal, I mean, it's a good call by Milwaukee to hold on to him. Milwaukee also just ended up getting Cam Thomas pretty much for free. And, I mean, he's a good scorer. He gets it done. Overall, I just feel like Giannis staying definitely isn't a great thing for his career. But for Milwaukee, until they can find that deal they really like, then it's good to hold.
Well, I mean, of course, the asking price is high for the Milwaukee Bucks because it's Giannis Antetokounmpo. I mean, he's one of the best players in the game right now. And ever since he won that championship with the Bucks, I mean, everyone thought, that, here's the Giannis Milwaukee Bucks dynasty starting. But at this point, I just think you blow it up. I think Giannis will be gone by the end of the season to some other team. I'm not sure who, but I just can't see him in the Milwaukee Bucks uniform after this season.
Yeah, it's not a good fit anymore, honestly. And one thing I do want to highlight about the deadline is I don't feel like we talked about the Wizards trades enough. I mean, I don't know what Washington's doing. They're going into next year thinking they're going to be like a top 4 team in the East. You're not. The East is stacked up right now. And you just trade for Anthony Davis and you give away most of your future. What are you going to do? Are you going to plug him at the 4, put Sarr at the 5, put Sarr at the 4, and then move him to the 5? I mean, it's just a complicated process. I like the Trae Young trade because he could spread the ball to like Trae Johnson and Bub Carrington, but I don't really see the purpose in the Anthony Davis trade.
Yeah, he's one of those guys, again, that's going to sit most of the year because they're tanking. And it's just not a good product for the fans to watch, especially Wizards fans. I don't know if we know any Wizards fan, especially living in New Jersey, but imagine how happy they were to learn that Anthony Davis was coming to their team just for them to learn that he's not going to play a minute again for the rest of the regular season because they're trying to lose. Like, that's just not a good product as a fan.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't going to play because they're going to lose, but he also just wasn't going to play because he doesn't play. Like, overall, like, I don't really see that as being good for the Wizards, like you said, Noah, but...
Yeah,
I guess we'll see their future. I don't think they're doing it that well, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, forget the tanking. Like he's not going to play either way because he's going to get hurt again like he always does. But I'm surprised he went to Washington. I'm surprised Washington kind of wanted to trade for him. I thought that he would go to a team that's a bigger contender like Detroit or Boston or some team that's contending like that. But, I mean, Anthony Davis, this is not good for Washington. Like Noah said, I like the Trae Young trade, but I can't even say the Wizards are preparing for the future anymore because they got Anthony Davis. So
yeah. I don't know if Adam Silver sent out a memo and said like all the horrible teams you have to trade for a star player, so we even it out a little bit. But I think it's just an awful deal for Anthony Davis considering you're just bringing in another fan to the building because he's not actually going to play. He's just going to sit there and just like wave at the camera when it pans on him. But
yeah, well, that's going to do it for this week on The Locker Room. We'll see you next week.